Thanks for joining us for the Member xCite presentation. The Member xCite presentation is informative, interesting to the audience, and showcases the strengths of the presenter as an entrepreneur and their area of expertise. It's not a sales pitch, it's a 10-minute educational and insightful exploration into what they do. And of course, it's exciting.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our xCite presenter today, Glenn Newberry from Utopian Property, to present to us on plan and strategy to retire on $2,000 per week from property. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Glenn Newberry.
Okay, good morning everybody. My name is Glenn Newberry from Utopian Property. I'm a property investment advisor and buyer's agent. As Cara said, I've been investing in property for 23 years and hold a substantial property portfolio myself. So before we get started, I have to have a disclaimer. I am not an accountant. I don't have a financial services license. So anything I'm talking about here is general nature and not advice, which is what we always have to do when we're talking about investing. So today I'm going to quickly run through some of the things, the key things we need to, number one, create a plan, but also put a strategy together to make sure that if we're looking to retire from work and have an income coming in, potentially from property, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So we need to set some criteria for the properties that we want, right? So what I look for are emerging suburbs, so areas that are going through a regentrification. So I do established properties, and what we do is we look for areas that are being regentrified, but they've got a lot of good fundamentals that are going to drive growth in those locations. We also need to, obviously make sure we're negotiating well when we're purchasing the property, making sure that we're not paying over what we consider to be market value. And that's a key part of what we do. We really try and make money on the way in. Very difficult to do in the market the way it is at the moment because it's so hot everywhere in Australia at the moment. But if you get off-market opportunities, quite often you can achieve that. Also, properties that return above average rental yields. So cash flow is where I believe a lot of people go wrong in investing. They buy the properties that are very low in cash flow. And what that means is they'll never be able to get to their goal because they won't be able to support loans, or they won't be able to get loans to buy additional properties, right? So the key part is to make sure that you're getting a good rental yield that helps to cover the costs of the property. And also focus on properties that are affordable in the location you're buying and affordable to the masses. Because if they're affordable to the masses, more people can obviously afford to buy that property. There's more demand. Demand is what drives growth. Okay, so that's a key part of what we do. So you've got to find properties that tick all of those boxes and make sure that we get all of those things when we're looking for the criteria for a property. Okay, so one thing we need to do is put a good team together. Right? Your team is crucial to your success. If you don't have the right people behind you, it's the same in business. If you don't have the right people in your team, in your business, it's going to cause problems. Property investing is no different. It is a business. It generates income like any other business does. So you need to make sure you have the right team. So you need a good mortgage broker, a good accountant, a great buyer's agent, Utopian Property, and also good solicitors, conveyancers, pest and building, property managers are also key. They're the ones that are going to be looking after the property. There are good and bad out there in everything, but a good property manager in that location is key to making sure that the property is going to perform and do what you need it to do and achieve the goals that you want. And also a financial planner, making sure that you get all the right insurances in place. As you take on more debt, you need to have those crucial insurances to make sure that if anything happens that you're going to be covered. Okay, so making a plan and executing. So the strategy I've got there, and you can see it on the page for those watching at home. There are three parts to the strategy. The first one is obviously creating a plan and putting that plan together. How are you going to generate that income? So you need to look at what sort of income do you want to generate from the portfolio? What sort of income do you want to earn in retirement? And that's your goal, right? What time frame do you want to achieve it in? Property investing is not a overnight thing, right? It takes time, right? It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. So it does take time. And you also need to look at your cash flow and how much can you afford every week to be able to hold that portfolio without affecting lifestyle. You shouldn't be living on 2-minute noodles just to build a property portfolio, right? So again, cash flow is very important. You need to know how much can you put aside towards property investing without affecting your lifestyle to cover any shortfall that there might be within the properties. So that's the first thing, get your plan together. Then second phase is acquisition. And that's all about building the portfolio that you need to generate the income that you want. So in the example that I've got there, we talk about a base portfolio. So as an example, if we've got 5 properties that cost us $500,000 each, we've spent $2.5 million, right? And let's say that they're all renting out for $400 a week. That's our $2,000 per week in rental income, okay? So the first goal is to build that base portfolio. And once you have that, a portfolio of say 5 properties in this scenario, then you've achieved the goal of obtaining $2,000 a week in rental income. Now obviously the issue is at that point in time, most of that income is going to the banks because you're paying mortgages on all of those properties. But once you've hit that goal and you've built that portfolio and it's generating the amount of income that you want, that's when you shift into the third phase, which is what we call consolidation. And the consolidation phase is all about getting rid of the debt, right? And there's different strategies that we can use to get rid of the debt. So during the consolidation phase, we actually continue to purchase properties. But the properties we purchase during consolidation phase are what we call trading properties. They're ones that we're going to buy, at some point in time we're going to sell. We're going to use that profit from those properties to pay down debt on the base portfolio. So that when you get to the end of the game, you have a base portfolio that has 0 debt, right? And that's the end goal. You want to have 0 debt on your home, and you want to have 0 debt on the property portfolio. And then all of that $2,000 a week income is going to you and not to the bank, right? Now obviously you've got operational costs involved, which are probably 20% on top, right? So you need to account for that. And because it is income, you'll have to pay income tax on that as well, right? So that's where you kind of need to work backwards and say, okay, well if I want this amount of money, cash in my pocket net, then you've got to add on your 30% tax, and then you've got to add on your 20% operational costs, which will go as part of the operation for the business. So some of the strategies that we can use during the consolidation phase are things like doing cosmetic renovations. Buy a property, renovate it, hold it for a period to minimise the capital gains tax, not doing accounting advice, but then selling that down, taking the profit and using it to pay off the portfolio. And when we're paying off the portfolio, what we do is we target one property within that portfolio. Get rid of the debt on that property first, because then, once we get rid of the debt on that property, that releases the $400 a week that it's generating rental income. It's not going to the bank anymore. And what we do is we channel that $400 a week into property number 2, which is also renting for $400 a week. And now we have $800 a week paying off the debt on property number 2, right? And then, we can use other things like subdivisions, do small subdivisions, 1 into 2 type subdivision. We can do some small developments, duplexes or triplexes, and also granny flats and rooming houses, which generate surplus cash flow, right? And again, you channel that surplus cash flow into paying down the debt on the properties. And again, when there's no debt left in property number 2, you then take that $800 a week, channel that into property number 3, which has also got $400 a week, so now you've got $1,200 a week paying down that debt. And then that creates a snowball effect where you really start to pay down the debt quite rapidly. Now, how long does this take? In reality, it's a 15 to 20 year strategy. Right? So your acquisition phase can be achieved within sort of 6 to 8 years, and then your consolidation is generally a 9 to 12 year consolidation phase. So that's how we can generate the income and how we can build a portfolio. If you want to know more, then on the back there is a full-length webinar that I ran a couple of weeks ago. The link is on the back. You can scan the QR code, it will take you straight to it. You can watch that full-length webinar, runs for about 45 minutes. And then if you watch that and you've got any questions after that, don't hesitate to give me a call. Glenn from Utopian Property.